Happy third day of January. All right, this is three videos in a row, and today I'm actually in the office again, finishing up that blueprint course with that I'm doing the foot in the door framework with Jason. If you're an agency, make sure to check it out with Jason Swank. If you want to learn more about it, just put in the comments below. I'll get you a link to it once it goes live. Um, but today I was before I was doing this, I was working on my vision for and working through that vivid vision from Cameron Harold and for our businesses, for Story Cruise, for Authentic Web, where we want to go. And I would start to think back on, I start to get overwhelmed. And, when you start making big goals, it can be overwhelming. And, the big mistake, and it's a big mistake to be overwhelmed because you should feel a little bit of fear in your goals. And I felt it today because also I'm afraid of, the big fear is like, hey, what happens if I fail? And what happens if, and who's going to do all this work? Well, first of all, you know, it's who, not how. So it's finding other people and it's an investment. But I found, my big mistake in making goals was always monetary, right? Setting monetary goals or setting goals that don't, setting goals that excite you is great, but are they exciting you because you see someone else doing it? You're like, is it a me too goal? Which I've definitely done in the past. I've had very successful friends. I'm lucky to have very successful friends, but when you get around them and they're talking about these things that they're doing, especially in masterminds, you start to think, hey, I want that too, right? Or I want that, or I want this billions of dollars and whatever. I have friends that are billionaires, and I'm lucky to have that, but that should not be your goal. And this comes back to the whole, I'm listening to Steve Jobs' biography, and I thought about this with Disney and what Walt Disney really inspired me with Walt and also with Steve Jobs was Steve was initially wanted money, but I think he wanted money to do stuff, right? He wanted to get out of poverty, but then after a while, he was a minimalist. He was a Buddhist. Um, and Walt Disney too, he wanted money to make great stuff. He was a great salesperson, but he wanted money to make great stuff. And that was, one of my goals. I feel like we make great stuff, but that should be the big focus is really getting big results for clients, which it is, but it should be our main focus. It should be my main focus is creating something great instead of just creating something that hits some numbers. Because after a while, you should, if you don't have money right now, you should make money. You shouldn't be going and that's another mistake I see is like people that are like, oh, I want to, have these big lofty goals, but then they're not making enough money to pay the bills. So first thing is, make enough money, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But after a while, those, I'm setting the wrong goals. And then you get to a point because it gets hard, you're not excited by it. So that was my big goal setting problem I realized, and I changed that for this year. But also in that feeling of overwhelm, I was, I'm reading through Vivid Vision, and then I was reminded too of our client, my friend Gino Wickman, and I think one of the biggest ideas I learned in the past 18 months is 10-year thinking. And while I have a goal for this of 100,000 subscribers for this year, I really should be thinking 10 years from now, what do I want? What that does is so much because it takes a lot of pressure off the immediate. It allows you to think better, clearer, but it also allows, that was another thing I got from Steve Jobs' book. He, just on the way into the office, I was listening to him talk about the Apple stores and how they developed the Apple store. And they spent 6 months intensely, secretively working in a warehouse, designing every aspect. It's amazing book to hear about like the grays choosing out and how detail oriented he was. And then I'm gonna ruin a little bit of the book, spoiler alert, fast forward if you don't want to, but they realized they made a mistake in designing the store and how it was laid out, and they needed to redo it, right? And he was like, I'm so tired, and he was like, I can't redo the store because he had put so much into it. And here's another interesting thing too. At this point, Steve Jobs too wasn't taking a salary, wasn't getting stopped. He literally was not getting paid. And so he's like, I'm going to do this. And afterwards he said, I'm successful. my greatest successes always had a moment where I had to start over. And he talked about Toy Story too. That happened in Toy Story, where they got halfway done making the movie and they had to start over. And that's, for me, that's inspiring, because I realized, hey, if I get tenure thinking, I can start over. If you figure that you have to, by this end of this year, have XYZ success, and that's what I was talking about yesterday about the goals, the success goals, the outcome goals versus the process goals. If I say I have to have success by this time, and look at Steve Jobs, he always went over at, when he was putting stuff out. But if you say, hey, I realize I need to change this, you can change it. Now, because you have the 10-year goal, and if I have the 10-year goal, I can come back and change that one thing and maybe tear everything apart and rebuild it. The blueprint that I'm talking about today, I've torn it apart and rebuilt it several times. The foot in the door, our framework for selling it. And I keep tearing it apart and rebuilding it because I know I just want it to be the best thing possible. And that's where setting those goals of being the best versus monetary goals versus time goals is, I think, important, and also process goals. So, I'm going to allow myself to fail, allow myself to restart this year, on this road to getting to 100,000 subscribers. Maybe I don't get there. Maybe I get there and, it doesn't do much for me. It's a goal I have, but I'm going to continue the process of doing it. But also stay inspired by listening to these audiobooks, by reading more stuff, by, obviously keeping us afloat. But the goal is to do something great. So I want to have 100,000 subscribers, but not have 100,000 subscribers that don't care. I want to influence and impact 100,000 people. And, if you can give them 1% better, and then, especially if I'm working with agencies and other videographers, think about that. If I can influence 100,000 other businesses to help other businesses, and they help 10 more, and I was thinking about this on the way over here, just because of what I did, I've impacted 1 million lives. That's crazy. Impacting one life is amazing. I love that. But impacting 1 million lives would be fantastic. And so I'm starting to change my goals around and connect it more with the why, because it'll help me get past this. So, 10-year thinking, to recap, stay with that 10-year thinking. And that's what I'm going to be working on. I'm going to talk about that in some future videos. Realize that, sometimes you need to completely start over. Sunk losses, sunk investments. And, I did an episode, The Profit, How to Price Your Business with Vinny Fisher. But so often sunk investments in stuff lead us to keep going down that path when it's the wrong path. All right. What if Steve Jobs wouldn't have said, you know what, we've got this store design, we're not going to redesign it, and the Apple Store wasn't where it was now. I mean, think about those stores. In 2010, they were doing something like, I want to say like $2.5 billion in sales from the Apple stores. And because of resetting that, and he didn't settle, and he didn't stick to sunk costs. So 10-year thinking, be willing to fail and start over, and, have big, audacious goals that are driven by, excellence instead of just profit. All right, day 3 is done. I will see you tomorrow. I'm going to be posting some of these types of videos. This coming week, I'm actually going to be posting, I'm going to be doing some lives about creating your video marketing plan for 2021. I'm going to talk about the trends I see, the 5 to 10 big trends that I see that are going to happen. Some of the big mistakes I see people making on videos. So make sure to stay tuned. If you're watching this in the future, if you have any comments, please comment below. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Help me get to that 100,000. And let me know how I can help you down below. Any questions you have about those goals or any of the resources I talked about, let me know and I'll put links to it. All right, here we go.